Hello, my name is Thomas deBoer, and today I'll be speaking with you about understanding slow-slip precursors of induced seismicity in order to de-risk hydraulic fracturing. For some background, this poster presents a case study of a 4.6 magnitude event which occurred in 2015 in northeastern British Columbia during hydraulic fracturing operations. The hydraulic fracturing took place within the Montney Formation. This poster intends to present a conceptual model which describes the interactions between horizontal bedding planes under hydraulic fracturing and their interaction with thrust fault structures. In this case study, we look at how the pressurization of weak bedding planes alters the frictional properties, allowing for aseismic slip to occur, which has the capacity to activate distance faults. The study also reveals that traditional surface microseismic techniques may not be able to capture these slow slip events due to their low acoustic emissions and atypical response. In response to this, we introduce a novel technique which is capable of predicting and mitigating seismic risks by analyzing changes in wellhead treatment pressure during completions, identifying slow slip events that may have otherwise been missed. Induced seismicity within the Montney typically occurs as either thrusting or strike slip events. A Bayesian scale analysis shows that the distance to the cordillera and thrust belt is the primary control of these large thrust events. If we look at the map, we can see that the Fort St. John Graben is characterized by shallower events which are typically strike-slip, while the northern extent of the Montney within British Columbia is characterized by these larger thrust events. However, the underlying mechanism of well-fault interaction highlights aseismic slip on bedding planes in both cases. We can think of this aseismic slip as a sliding scale from fracture-driven interactions, or frac hits, all the way up to induced seismicity. In this case, if you have a parent well with children wells and you're getting interactions between these parents and childs, that would be classified as a frac hit. That indicates that a large planar fracture is forming, and if that fracture interacts with enough of the wells and activates a large enough plane, in this case a bedding plane, aseismic slip may occur along that plane, which has the increased risk of casing deformation. Beyond that, if that plane slides to a significant degree or allows for fluid to interact with more distant faults, it can alter the stress state on those critically stressed faults, leading to eventual fault rupture. The case study focuses on a magnitude 4.6 induced seismic event which occurred within the northwestern Montney on October 17, 2015. The site was equipped with 203 component geophones which collected waveforms for about a month during active stimulation. During the completions period, 8 total wells were completed, and the 4.6 magnitude event occurred 7 days into stimulation on the third well. Despite this event, completions continued and a 3.2 magnitude aftershock occurred approximately 15 days later. From the map, you can see that the fault is located to the west of the well pad, along a seismically active trend, which is close proximity to the cordillera and thrust belt. From the block model, you can see that our well pad location is located between a parallel fault and the primary fault upon which the 4.6 magnitude event occurred, as well as having an underlying back thrust fault beneath the well. So in this case, the well pad is located within the fault block, bordered by these 2 parallel faults. Despite being over 1.5 kilometers away, the thrust fault was triggered during completions at this site. From picked microseismic events, we can see that there is a small subset of events, less than 10 total, that occurred along the boundary between the upper and middle Montney, about 1.5 kilometers on either side of the wellbore. A detailed moment tensor inversion of these distant events revealed that many of them were subhorizontal, and they are interpreted as fracture propagation along bedding contacts. The vertical contrast and geomechanical properties is believed to have caused fractures to be baffled within these bedding contact planes, such that the horizontal fracture propagation allowed for this plane to be activated and for fluid to flow along with these bedding planes towards pre-existing fault structures. In addition to this, the introduction of fluid and proppant promoted shear failure along these surfaces, resulting in aseismic slip before the fault actually ruptured. This is corroborated by nearby sites having measurable aseismic slip revealed through INSAR surface displacement measurements, which are also present at the case study site and suggest large-scale block mobilization. The completions activities up to a month before the main shock at a nearby pad A also likely activated the eastern parallel thrust fault, as evidenced by a cluster of events 3.5 kilometers south from the active pad, or pad B, shown on the map. Pad B was then able to activate this northern thrust fault block, causing further mobilization of the horizontal plane and fault planes. This sequencing led to a differential displacement and eventual rupture of the 4.6 magnitude event on that primary fault. The gradual failure of these multiple faults over longer durations indicated that slow aseismic slip was occurring at the site, and that analysis should focus on longer period events. An analysis of the geophone waveforms at the site showed tremor-like signatures which have also been identified at similar sites within the Montney. A similar analysis of waveforms in literature indicate that certain resonant behaviors are the result of source effects due to hydraulic fracturing, and may be the result of slow or aseismic slip and long-scale deformation within the subsurface. Conceptually, we can think about a plane shearing within the subsurface as generating an oscillatory motion which is then picked up by a geophone. In a similar way, if we have a plane that is filled with fluid and that fluid has direct connection to the surface pressure gauge, it allows our well to act as a distributed hydraulic antenna which is capable of capturing that oscillatory motion and that resonant behavior. On the right, we have plotted a spectrogram, which is a frequency in the y-axis and time in the x-axis representation of the signal. We've also plotted a spectrogram of the treatment pressure over time, and we can see that the treatment pressure and the surface geophone spectrograms show analogous signals with similar frequencies throughout time as hydraulic fracturing was completed on the site. To further this, advanced signal analysis and decomposition techniques have allowed for the seismic noise to be extracted from treatment pressure in general. With this extracted noise, we can use machine learning algorithms to be able to identify different seismic behaviors and predict the progression of stick slip into potential fault rupture. At the bottom here, I have three phases of distinct signals that were identified in the treatment pressure during hydraulic fracturing at this site. Prior to the large event, we see that there is a stick slip cycle that occurs in which that fault accelerates and decelerates, leading to a seismic slip. Just before the eventual fault rupture, we see that there is a large period of irregular stick slip, which is followed by a large-scale stick leading up to that major event. After the fault ruptures, we see that there is generally broadband and much higher amplitude noise after the event, which indicates that that fault is sliding and has full-scale fault rupture. This correlates to what we see within the microseismic picked events as well as the microseismic resonant behaviors. Using this, mitigation strategies may be implemented in real time based on the surface pressure in order to identify, limit, and reduce the progression of aseismic slip, which reduces not only the risk of induced seismicity but also casing deformation. I'd like to thank you for listening, and please feel free to reach out and email if you have any questions. Thank you.